Welcome to Financial Revelations. I am your host, David Safransky. You can always find us on Twitter at FI Revelations. FI Revelations, it'll be up here on the screen. And you can always email us, and there's two emails that you can email us at. One I prefer. If you have a question or a comment, Joshua at EPSF.com. Joshua at EPSF.com. And again, that will also be up on the screen so you can see it. The EPSF really does confuse a lot of people. It confuses me sometimes, so I want to make sure you get it right. And if you have a question or a concern or a comment, I want to make sure that we address it for you so that we're meeting your needs. It's very important to us here at Financial Revelations, the podcast about money and all things. And today we're going to talk about the Ukraine debacle. And I know this is in the news a lot. And last night we were watching the news, and the Russians had attacked a nuclear power plant. Rampant speculation going on about what was going on. Turned out to all be wrong. There was no release of fissile material or radiation spikes, but the fog of war, that you're going to get a lot of news that is fake, or not. It's not that it's fake, but they just don't know. And so there's a lot of what I call rampant speculation going on about what's actually happening in Ukraine right now. And we're not going to focus on those things. What I'm going to focus on is the three things that are going to come out of this, or potential outcomes of the Ukraine debacle. And then what the real elephant in the room is for everybody that's listening to this. So first of all, it is true. The Ukrainian people are suffering dramatically right now. They're in the crossfire of Russian and Ukraine fighters. There's what would appear to be bombing of residential areas, and President Putin chose this time to do this. We don't really know why. It probably has to do with money. Usually most things like this have to do with money. There are roughly 24 Russian pipelines that go through Ukraine, and Russia pays for that right. And these are the pipelines that provide the vast majority of the energy for Europe. Europe is heavily reliant on Russian energy. Oil, natural gas are all coming from Russia. They're a very big producer. They're part of OPEC Plus. Not a voting member of OPEC, but they are part of OPEC Plus. And so as this is happening, the Ukrainian people are suffering. And I saw something that really touched my heart last night. For the Ukrainian people that are making it to Germany, people are waiting at the train stations with signs that will say, we could take 3 people, we could take a family. And I thought, you know what, humanity, there are some really great things about humanity, and this is one of them. We're watching it happen. Ukrainians are fleeing the violence and potential death, and they show up someplace and somebody's ready to take them, and I love that. It brought a tear to my eye, to be honest with you. So eventually this is going to end, and the geopolitical forces usually rectify themselves. We're not going to get into a shooting war with Russia right now. They haven't attacked a NATO country. And I think we've made the calculation, our government and governments around the world, that we're going to sacrifice Ukraine to Russia, and that's what's going to happen. And unless the Ukrainians find a way to stop that, we're going to ship them some javelins and some shoulder-fired missiles, but we're not going to get involved personally. And so I think there's one of 3 things that are going to happen here. Either Russia takes the Ukraine, and they take it over, and they install their own government there, and there's going to be substantial loss of life in that process, both Russian and Ukrainian. So that's the first thing that could happen. That's the most likely thing that's going to happen, because even if half of Russia's tanks don't work or don't have gas, they still have probably 10 times the amount of tanks that Ukraine has. And brute force is going to win the day there eventually. The next thing that could happen is Russia could just back out. They could say, you know what, this wasn't worth it. We don't like the sanctions. The oligarchs are mad. They're seizing 500-foot ships all over. and also an Airbus A340, which is the largest private plane in the world, it's a two-aisle plane. It's a jumbo jet, and one of the Russian oligarchs has that. I don't know. I don't know enough people to put in an A340 if we were going someplace. So the third outcome is somewhere in the middle, that they do install a puppet government, remove most of the troops. One of those three things is going to happen, and it's probably going to happen in the next 30 to 60 days. So it's in the grand scheme of things a fairly short time frame. I don't want to minimize the suffering that's going on there. I don't want to make it seem like I'm uncaring, because I have friends that are Ukrainian. I have talked to people that are thinking about going over there and fighting or taking humanitarian things to the Ukrainian people. So I know people who are intimately involved in it, and it is hard. I mean, it's hard for them. It's hard for everybody. So one of those three things is going to happen. Now, if Russia takes Ukraine, I think in general the markets are going to go back to where they were. Maybe not skyrocket at first, but they're going to return because energy is going to flow. I do think that Russia has sowed some seeds of their own demise here, in that Europe is finding out how dependent they are on Russian resources. And Russia in general is just they're a resource economy. They're an oil-based economy, a natural gas-based economy. If you shut that off, now China will buy as much as they have, but they don't have pipelines to China. And so they will. It's going to take it's a long trip across Russia. Russia has 11 time zones. That's a long pipeline. So it's going to take some time to get that energy absorbed into China. So there's really a couple places that would buy all the energy that Russia has if they sent it there. And one would be China and India and Pakistan. They'll buy it all. They're never going to lack for a market. They're going to lack for a way to get it there. So the next thing, if Russia backs out, I think markets would skyrocket. If they say, hey, look, the oligarchs get to Vladimir Putin. The oligarchs are the one who put him in. They found him. He was a Russian spy, KGB officer, high-ranking. But he wasn't anything like what he is now until the oligarchs got a hold of him and they thought he could control him. The oligarchs thought that they can control Vladimir Putin, and they could at first. And then Frankenstein, monster, all that. And he turned on them. And he's going to allow them to be wealthy, but he's going to stay in power. So if Russia backs out, I think the markets skyrocket. I don't think that's happening. Somewhere in the middle, where they maintain some troop presence there, they install a government, I think in time markets are going to go back to normal. I still believe that this year, 2022, is going to be a positive year in the markets, even if it's small, because of the reopen trade that's happening and is about to happen. We changed the mask mandates. Most people don't have to wear masks anymore. I'm flying, and I'm seeing a lot of people fly. I did not get a good parking spot last time at the airport. I had to park on the top floor of the parking deck. I haven't had to do that in 3 years, so people are flying. Now, the elephant in the room is really energy prices, and most people don't realize right now Vladimir Putin has the keys to Europe in his hands right now. And if he shuts down a pipeline, if he shuts down energy flowing to Europe right now, Germany is totally out of nuclear power. They have made a commitment to get back involved in nuclear power. It is very clean energy. It's the cheapest energy once you build the plant. And by and large, it's very safe unless it gets bombed. I don't think that Russia is going to attack a NATO country. I just don't think they're going to do that. So if he shuts down a pipeline, I think, or the pipelines, or the energy transmission to Europe, Europe is going into a recession the next day because their energy prices are going to go up 2,000%. Already in England, natural gas is 1,000% more over last year, 1,000%. People can't heat their houses in England right now because they don't really explore for natural gas. Englanders don't, and they shut down their only storage facility, so they're buying natural gas on the spot market every day. Prices are up 600% there. So if prices are up 600% at the source, they're going to be up even more by the time it gets to your house, and they're having a real problem there. Our gas prices are going to be $5 in Ohio, given what's going on right now. They're over $5 in California. If they shut off oil and gas to Europe, I think that the price of a gallon of gas in California is going to approach $7.50 to $9 a gallon. And people think, well, Putin has his limits. We're seeing he does not, and he'll use energy, and it is his leverage. And we gave up our leverage when this administration came into power. We shut down the Keystone Pipeline day 2. Well, that was going to move crude across the country and get it to places where it's a little bit more expensive. That would have helped a lot. There's no cheaper way to move crude. There's no cheaper way to move anything, and no safer way than a pipeline. And we shut that down, and we made it hard to drill, to get a new permit to drill for oil and gas here, and we stopped renewals on federal land. So that's why energy prices were already higher here. That was our leverage. And when we allowed oil prices to go from 30 to 80, what we did is we put a lot of money in the Russians' pockets. Because they're a natural resource-oriented economy. When natural resources are more expensive, they get rich. And basically, we brought them back into the fold with our money. We're buying oil from Russia today. Our country is financing the war in Ukraine. There's a couple of bills right now to stop buying Russian oil, but it's going to take some time. And in the meantime, we're sending them money. That's not a good thing. So the solution for us here is to use the words of the great American philosopher Sarah Palin, drill, baby, drill. We got to get back to drilling for oil and natural gas and allowing people back on federal lands. We got to open up ANWR, because when the price of oil is cheap, our enemies, the people like Russia and Iran and even Saudi Arabia and some of those countries, they don't have a lot of money. They have to focus on their own economy instead of making things rough on us. And we need to open up our resources here in the U.S. We need to get back to what we were doing before, and that is making it hard on countries who hate us. And the Green New Deal that our president is really aiming towards is killing us. We're not going to have battery technology that is advanced enough to have everybody driving an electric car probably in the next 20 years. So we got to... Electric cars are great. Windmills, I don't really like them. I think they're a blight on the landscape. Solar, okay, we could do that. I know in Maui, Hawaii, they produce most of their energy via windmills and solar, but the sun shines a lot there. It makes sense. It's expensive once you get, to get up and running, but once you're up and running, you can amortize those prices over time. So I'm not against it. I just don't think it's the solution. I think it's a mix of things. But for now, we need oil and natural gas here, and we need it to be cheap. And that's what we should be doing. And until we do that, people like Russia and Putin, they're going to hold us hostage over energy prices. This is not the first time it's happened. It's not going to be the last time it happens. It wasn't happening when oil was cheap because they didn't have the money to do it. So that's what we have to do. And that's the way out of the Ukraine debacle, is to not let energy prices get that high to where they feel like somebody like a Putin can use it as leverage against us. And that's exactly what's happening right now. Again, if you have questions, if you have comments, if you hate something I said and you want to tell me about it, Joshua@epsf.com, and we'll answer those questions, even the ones that, if somebody says, hey, you were dead wrong about something, we'll talk about it. So I want to hear from you guys. You can also reach out on Twitter. I look forward to talking to you guys next week or the week after or the week after that. I am David Safransky. This is Financial Revelations. We'll talk to you soon.